I'm Narelle Todd.
And I'm Essie Susan Smith.
We are the self-publishing author and marketing duo that has sold over 2 million books. But we didn't start out knowing how to sell books. Fast forward past many failed promotions and a lot of lessons learned, you will see how we went from self-publishing newbies to hitting the New York Times bestsellers list and making the USA Today bestsellers list 19 times and counting. We created the Get My Book Out There podcast to give you simple yet effective marketing strategies to increase readership and book sales, so you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, as well as some tips for staying mentally and physically well.
Let's get started.
Hi everyone, it's Narelle Todd here, and I'm going solo today. Susan can't be with us, but fortunately I'm not on my own. I'm here with Natalie Palma, who is the author of Rinse and Repeat. Just look at that cover. Love it. So fabulous book. Nat's going to step us through, it's a cozy mystery. She's going to step us through a bit about her book, but I also wanted to talk to Natalie. She's a new author and got one book out, and I wanted to just chat with her from, I guess, the perspective of what's it like as a new author. You know, what has she discovered in her journey this past year into releasing her book? I don't know, you know, what would you do different? What would you just go, well, that's all part of the learning process, and let's just see what happens. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank
Natalie.
you. Thank you very much.
Cozy mystery, that's your thing? You think you'll...
Yeah. So I liked a lot of aspects of the cozy mystery, especially the kind of fun sense of it. You know, murder is not always a pleasant business, but with cozies, you know, it keeps some of the scarier elements out, and it's more about the mystery. Some of them don't even have murders in them, but this one happens to have a couple murders. But just a couple, a sprinkle. And I love it really focuses on the friendships and the people and quirky, interesting characters, which I like.
Yeah, brilliant. So this is your first book, is that right? Or your
Yes.
first published book?
First published book. So I am a dabbler. I've written many books that have never seen the light of day. I was in a lot of writers groups, and a lot of people gave me advice, and I actually have a couple books that are almost ready to go. And it's interesting there's a lot of aspects of learning how to be a writer, and you always think it's the finished product that's what makes you a writer, and I don't think that's what it is. I think it's, you know, you get the story down and you get the characters down, but then that last layer is the magic of writing something that people get into. You know, you want to sink into that story and kind of escape. And I think my other books didn't have that, and I feel like I found the secret sauce.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. So from a writing craft perspective, this is so Rinse and Repeat's not your first book.
No.
You've had many before, and you've been writing for a couple of years now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to be a magazine writer, and then I went into fiction, and I've just been a real lifelong learner, trying to figure out how to get something. I'm just such a lover of books, and there's so many great stories out there, and I was measuring my book by it, and it was nowhere near where I wanted to be. And that's the thing about being a good reader, is that you have good taste. So you know when your stuff isn't ready.
Yes.
And I really knew it wasn't ready. And it took me a while, but I'm there now, I think.
Yeah. So it's great to know that you're not like the overnight success, sort of stuff where you write the first book. And so this has been several years along the way of getting to where you are now. So firstly, just letting people know that it's okay to take years before you can get it, before you release a book.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay to take time to learn the craft and find, the secret sauce for you, which I'm just so happy about that you found that. So from a writer perspective, that has to bring some feelings of just almost like peace in your writing. Have you found that you now are approaching writing different now that all the bits?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Your first book I think you should always tell people, maybe it's the safest thing and maybe it's just my perspective, but I think your first book, you know that a lot of the people who are going to be your first readers are going to be your family and your friends. So what was interesting, which I wasn't expecting, was my fans being my writers, my family and friends, because they've kind of been with me this whole time and they all know I'm a writer. And it's just like I have a friend who is an IT person. Okay, I don't care what they do all day. You don't really talk about that. So when I was writing and I wasn't really expecting them to be, I forgot they are a consumer of entertainment as well. And it was so neat to see someone saying one of my lines back to me. And I was like, oh, wow, you did read it, it's proof you read it, and that was exciting to hear my friends talking about my book.
Yeah.
And it gave me kind of a seal of approval,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in releasing a book, particularly the first time around, I think in releasing a book, there's the writing side of things that you need to kind of get a handle on. Then there's the marketing. And then I think there's also a mindset component, because it can be scary putting yourself out there, for the very first time. People you don't know now, there's the potential for them to find your book and leave a comment, and you have no control. That comment could be anything from a 1-star to a 5-star to, who knows what people are going to come up with. Step us through how you managed the stuff around, say, just the mindset. Did you have any fears going into this, or is it just like, well, whatever?
I think I was terrified. Of putting it out there. It's very easy to spend your whole life writing in a room by yourself. Like, that's my safest place. Nobody's criticizing me. I love my story, and that's all that matters. And it's a huge leap to actually do your own published book. And what was fascinating about it was what made it less scary, I think, was actually all the other things I had to do, all the other marketing and things. It was like, I can't be too obsessed with this writing. I have to move on. And that was actually an interesting, I've been in writers groups before, and there's good and there's bad about them. But it was very nitpicky on things. And I've been in it for 10 years. And that actually was a good gift of you pour out your 10 pages, your 20 pages of your soul onto the page. And then you get 20 people to rip it to shreds. And I was like, and I think that was actually that helped me with my bravery, which doesn't sound like it would. But once you've gone through that, it helped me to be like, okay, I think I can weather the storms of, the critics, because they're going to criticize you. And there's nothing you could do about that. I mean, they could have something on there that wasn't even your book. They're actually talking about a different book. And it's a similar name. And you're like, wait a minute. So you don't have any control over anything, really.
Yeah.
And it's good. Once you know that, it helps, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key, is knowing you have no control. We think we do, but once you realize and understand and just go, oh, well, actually, I don't have any control, no matter what I do. I think that's so key. So how did you celebrate the release of your first book?
Well, so it was so funny. I've heard so many wonderful stories about people planning these big, giant things. And I had something planned, and then I was too tired to do it. But I was like, okay, I'm tired. I had a friend that was going to meet for lunch, and I was going to meet with all these friends, and it was going to be great. And I was just too tired. And I go, you know what? That's how it's going to go, and that's okay. It's okay. You don't have to always have big parties. And I had a great time on the couch, had a little nap. It was great.
You celebrated with a nap.
I celebrated with a nap. It was wonderful. It was everything I dreamed it to be, Narelle.
That's hilarious. Mind you, after you do a book launch, there's so much in one that a nap is actually a reward.
Yeah. I had so many goofy things. So, okay, I thought I had everything organized, and I had a schedule, and I was like, dude, so good girl, type A stuff. And I re-listened. I was obsessively listening to my Audible, because I have an Audible component to this. And I listened, and I accidentally gave away the murderer way too early. And it was supposed to be about a secondary character having an issue, but I named the murderer there. And everybody read it and no one noticed it. And I was at like 3:00 in the morning rereading it, and I'm like, oh wait, I shouldn't be mentioning this character here because you're not supposed to know. And I think what happens with murder people is you know who the killer is, and you might sneak that in somewhere.
Yeah.
It was just the wrong name. That's all it was, and it was completely changed. And I had maybe 7 people read it and nobody picked it up. So be careful that murder writers, make mystery writers, make sure you don't accidentally give away your mystery at like the 2/3 mark.
So you can put a check against all the possible things that could go wrong. You've got to check against.
So what's really bad
reveal
is
the murderer.
Oh, I actually already paid the guy. So I was like, hey, listen, I have to give you extra money because you have to fix this because someone's going to notice this if I noticed it.
Yeah.
So he fixed it and it was perfect.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
So we're safe to go and read.
You're safe.
Now.
You're safe to listen to it. It is accurate.
So everyone can go and read, rinse and repeat, and know that we're not going to find out the murderer until we're meant to.
Yes. At the right time.
So look, as a newbie author, what would you say to other newbie authors who are potentially sitting on a book or wondering if they should release a book? What's your advice to those guys?
I would say be extraordinarily kind to yourself, because one of the things I had to make peace with was I knew that it's an emotional process and it is something that you're going to be scared of. Possibly. I mean, there's so many people that are brave. I'm only talking about me. I'm a little chicken, but you have to be knowing that the emotional parts of putting out any kind of artistic endeavor are going to take time, because, you're going to go, well, should I do this or should I do that? Give yourself the time to decide that so that when you put it out, you feel confident about it. If you feel like you have to rush, there's an arbitrary date on the calendar. The great thing is that you are so new, nobody really is going to notice. So, deadlines are important, but make sure, and I kept mine, but make sure you take care of yourself in the process and know your weird personality quirks and what's going to get you. For example, I'll give you my quirk. What my quirk is that I change characters' names until I have the right one. So I better make sure that the first name and the last name are the same throughout. And that is, search and is fine, but what will happen is search and replace. If you're only going the first name and you've changed the last name, I did that. And I caught that like on my 5th edit or something. So there's little quirks of yourself that, know yourself.
Yeah.
And give yourself a break and don't think that you have to have the next great American novel today. It's a journey, it's a path. Maybe you'll get there, maybe you won't, but that's not going to happen today. Very few people I know of have a hit their first book. Don't put yourself under that kind of stress.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes the pressure that authors put themselves under to release the perfect story actually prevents them from actually just releasing. Mm-hmm. And if they release, it would be a dreadful novel. It's simply the expectations of themselves are so high, but actually their standards are high anyway. So they would probably be doing better than everybody else out there. With regards to the quality of things, but lots of expectations and pressure put on yourself.
And know that it's you doing that. It's not the world. The world has no idea what you're doing until you put it out there. It's you you're doing that to yourself. And I kind of started to realize that as I've been doing stuff. I have a couple of finished novels I could put out tomorrow, but you also, an artist knows there's the business side, and you know what, you're not making any money, then you're not helping yourself. So there's a tightrope of when is the soup ready? You got to know when it's ready. You overcook it, not good. You just got to figure out. I think it's a challenge for every writer, and that's, they got to kind of figure that out themselves. Yeah. But if you never do it, then you're never going to get anything.
Exactly. And you're never going to learn the next steps you need to learn to keep going and growing. So on that point, what would you say has been the biggest impact for you on the business side of things? Or what's I don't know, the aha moment, or the like,
Well, what's funny is once that, December 15th came through and everything was up there, and, people are asking about my book and my neighbors are reading it and stuff, which was such a big compliment. It was surprising how complicated I had built it up in my head, because I had to. The great thing was that I had to do the same thing like 3 or 4 times because I screwed it up or I changed it. I changed the cover a couple of times in Amazon while I was going through the system. I changed the drafts of it a couple of times because I changed a few things that were slight but were important. So when I was changing everything, instead of going, oh, I'm mad at myself for changing this, it was actually getting me more confident in going into that system. And you're like, oh, it's no big deal to put a book on Audible. It really is very easy. They make it easy on purpose. Even the Audible system that they have, so you can track and listen to snippets of your chapters, is very simple. And they have a phone number that you can call, and a person will answer it, which is great, because you think,
oh my goodness,
who does that anymore? Nobody has phone numbers anymore. And they're very sweet. And I'll give you an example. Like, one of the funny things was, you have to buy you don't have to buy your numbers, your ASBN numbers, but I did. And then I freaked out because I had put information and I had changed the name of the character. And I'm calling the guy thinking I bought all these and they're going to all go in the trash because if the names are there and they're permanent. And he's like, yeah, you just go in there and you change it. It's fine. And I was like, oh, because everything you think everything you're going to screw it up, it's going to be permanent, it's going to be garbage, and you're going to waste all this money. And that's not the case. And people are very nice.
Yeah.
So I think the business part that surprised me the most was how much I could do on my own. There's so much you can see on YouTube. There's so much you could see in these different, they have tutorials. They do have FYIs, or, a mixed bag. Sometimes those don't help. Frequently asked questions. So I mean, they're okay, but there's somebody to help you on stuff. You don't have to do it alone. And I mean, luckily I had a group of writers I could ask questions for if I had them too. Friends of mine.
Yeah. And that's a good tip. I think it's to connect with a group of writers, because the writing community is so supportive. I've found, I reckon 99% of the time, writers groups are like a must-have, to be a part of. You might get the bad egg, but they're everywhere. So, yeah. But by and large, people want to help you be successful. So ask for help is another thing. And I saw you do that, not in a needy way, but it was just like, I'm stuck here, can you help? And people would just pop in and share, and it was amazing. It's always good to see stuff like that.
It's so great when you have a problem that's taking you 2 hours and you ask someone and they answer you and they've got it answered 5 minutes and you're like, oh, that's what it was. I
just did that on the weekend. I couldn't find, I was having this problem, and I spent hours and hours just researching it. I Googled, YouTube, did everything, and nothing. And I posted into a group, and someone just came back and went, you just checked this box. I went, oh, oh man. But I think it's that fine line too between, you shouldn't be the person who comes in all the time asking questions. I think there's some responsibility, personal responsibility to look for some things, because it also helps you learn quicker. But sometimes asking for help a bit sooner certainly would have saved me a few hours. So good point on that one. I like that one. So just to close out, what would you say to a new author? What's your top piece of advice?
Don't think you have to have it perfect this time around. The great thing is that you don't have a following. You don't have all these people waiting for your book that are going to be angry or wanting something. So do it your first time. Practice on learning the things that you need to do, the administrative tasks, the marketing tasks, those things, and let this be a learning opportunity. Nobody knows who you are. You're not going to sell 1 million books the first time around. So let that be. I was telling people over New Year's, I was like, this is my soft opening. I'm learning how to do this. It'd be like if you're at a restaurant, you're going to go, okay, I'm going to put this out and see what happens. And I'll go, oh, okay, maybe I want to do this next time. You look, I think I'm going to learn more than I'm going to make money on this one, but that makes the next book better. And then it's just incrementally going to be better from there. So let this be a learning exercise.
Yeah.
And it's a lot less stress when you do that.
And that's it. You've got to just release some of the control, as we've spoken about, and trust yourself. I think that's key. Definitely. Trust that you've written a quality book, trust that you're going to get it out there, and any mistakes that happen, they can be fixed. And if they can't, well, no big deal in the end of the day. Yeah. Usually. Oh, well, Nat, thank you so much for chatting with us. I'm absolutely thrilled that you've got Rinse and Repeat out there. It's a brilliant book. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you celebrated with a nap.
I did. It was wonderful.
Partying hard.
Yes. Like all good introverts.
So if people wanted, obviously they want to come read your book, find out more about you, where would we come and do that? What's the website? Or
Yeah, so I have a website. It's nataliepalma.com. And I also have, I'm on Facebook under the same name, Natalie Palma. And I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, awesome. And newsletter that they can sign up with? Will we do that on your website?
I'm actually working on that. I had one I'm not crazy about, so that will be in the next couple of days. I'll have that set up.
Okay, awesome. Rightio. Yeah. So sign up for the newsletter and then you'll never miss another Natalie Palma release. Rightio. Thanks, Nat. Lovely talking to you. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. We've got way more information we want to share with you to increase your book sales. So please come and join me at facebook.com. Get my book out there.